Hello everybody on the beautiful website of YouTube, this is your Uncle Girl coming here. So, we all know that Iron Man had his trilogy, and Cap kind of, sort of, he had his trilogy, if you know what I mean, don't you? So now we also need a third Thor movie, so he will get his trilogy, right? Now the reasons for me being excited for this MCU Marvel behemoth leading to some Thanos epic battle, kaboom in space, maybe someone will die finally, film, it's almost 100% because of the director that actually helming this picture. I don't want to be all too praisey, because I've only seen one of his films prior to this, but I think Taika Waititi is kind of a comedic genius, at least in my opinion, and he seems to be an expert on creating great banter between his characters, beat quirky humor, and also being very clever with his jokes. He writes his jokes in a more smart, subdued way, and they aren't always reliant on a punchline. It's more like there's an awkward level to it that makes the whole joke or the dialogue itself a joke. You don't need a catchy punchline to bring it all together. And this is what this movie exceeds the most in, definitely. It's comedy. It is funny. Sometimes just funny, but a bunch of times it is pretty freaking hilarious, to be honest. It is definitely the greatest MCU film if we're talking a comedic level. And I love the Guardians films, and I think those movies brought some great comedy comparing to all the other Marvel films that trying to be funny with his comedy but often fails and just feels childish. They actually brought some great comedy to the table, but this one I think pushes it even further. Then again, Taika Waititi is a great comedy director, so it's not necessarily a surprise that the comedy is the best thing about this movie. Hemsworth delivered a solid and very entertaining outing once more as Thor, and I think with this script and Waititi's directing, his comedic strength shows in a different way. Taika Waititi himself said that he thinks Chris Hemsworth is a really great comedy actor but hasn't really been utilized in that way, and I feel kind of the same, because I feel like the few times he's actually been dropping those quips throughout the Marvel films, he's been quite funny, and I think he definitely has what it takes, and this movie shows that. He is really funny in this movie. We also get way more Hulk than we're used to seeing, and what we've gotten before, which is a neat change. I mean, more Hulk, more smash, more cool action. So yeah, we definitely get Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner also, but more Hulk, actually, which is quite nice. Loki is of course back, and he's doing his thing, being a slimy douchebag with his hair and all. Tom Hiddleston is quite good. He's always quite good as Loki, so that's kind of per usual. And the brother chemistry between him and Hemsworth are just as great as there ever been. I think the chemistry between Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston as the, Asgardian brothers, as I guess you can say, has always been one of the best things, actually, and one of the best chemistry throughout the Marvel films, and it really shows here once more. Jeff Goldblum is in it. I mean, come on, freaking Jeff Goldblum. And he is Jeff Goldblum, or I wouldn't say that, and I mean, he's not doing a Will Smith in Suicide Squad, but he is quirky, he is awkward, he is funny. That's what I wanted from him. When I saw that Jeff Goldblum was gonna be in this movie, I was like, I want something like this, and I got what I wanted from him. He was great. His character is not necessarily the coolest and maybe not the absolute funniest in the movie, but it's Jeff Goldblum. He has that charm. I mean, just like him very much in this movie. He's great, he serves his purpose very well. Tessa Thompson, she was in Creed, and now she's playing like a badass action heroine that maybe has a past with the Asgardians, and she has her weaknesses and she has her strengths. We get a little backstory to her, and she's relatable and she is real good. There's a good performance, and the character feels very nice, piecing into the roster of the characters we have, and I think she really fits well, and she was funny, she was cool in the action sequences, she works good. The character Tessa Thompson played was not getting undermined to a love interest. She was actually her own character and had her thing going on and did her things without being shoehorned into some side plot bullshit. But let's just say this also, have your eyes open for some other interesting people showing up. Oink oink! The gladiator sequence between Thor and Hulk, we've seen it, being kind of hyped up in the trailers and all, is the best action set piece in the movie. Most of the action is good. It's not fantastic, but that action set piece was just amazing, and it was just really nice to watch. It is pleasing as hell seeing these two strongest Avengers brawling it out in kind of a sci-fi coliseum. It is not as gritty as Batman vs Superman, thankfully. It's more like the airport scene in Civil War, but one gripe I had with Civil War was that I think that the quips and the jokes thrown around in the airport scene kind of made that airport scene a little bit lesser. But they have kind of the same comedic tone here as they had in that airport scene in Civil War, and it works way better in this movie because this movie doesn't have like a moral dilemma of that kind, and it doesn't have this kind of like Democrats versus Republican thing going on. Iron Man versus Cap, you know, pick a side. It's just a funny brawl between Thor and the Hulk on a planet somewhere in a galaxy far away. So it's just nice having it being a comedic, nice little action battle going on. Overall, this movie was pretty amazing, but there were some clear issues that I couldn't really shrug off that easily. Once again, we have a very meh villain, and played by a great and talented actor, or in this case an actress. We had Mikkelsen, and as much as I felt Mikkelsen felt underutilized and wasted in Doctor Strange, I feel the exact same, if not even more, about Cate Blanchett in this movie. Like, you have Cate Blanchett, and she's just like generic bad revenge villain, you know. Sure, she has some nice bad guy dialogue, I guess, here and there, if that's something you can say. And she's visually has quite a striking appearance, looks cool. But overall, why have Cate Blanchett? Why bring in one of the greatest actresses for this role? It's unnecessary. You underutilize her. She gets introduced and we get her reasoning and motives, albeit that's kind of all we get. We never really get to spend enough time to get her character more than that. Like, oh, I have my motive, this is why, and this is what I gotta do. She's kind of like an exposition machine, more or less. She has quite little screen time also, and half of them feels just to be her looking like gothic and seductive, and yes, Cate Blanchett looks kind of seductive, okay? She looks quite good, you know? She Cate Blanchett, I've had a crush on Galadriel for all my life, so fuck you. Or she's just going action bananas. And the whole thing with her coming to take over Asgard feels not that interesting, because it really feels that that's not what Waititi was hired for, and therefore it also feels like that's not where he put in his best work. He didn't really care for that much, so the work was kind of eh. But he did, however, put in his best work as the side character Korg, that he himself plays. An absolutely hilarious little character who acts like a Muppet in a brute's monster body, I guess, and delivers probably the most funny lines and dialogue in the entire movie. He's definitely a new favorite for mine, at least. I mean, he's just so like awkward and literal. He's like Drax, but you know, if Drax was more kind and acted more childish and more acted like Kermit, that's kind of Korg for you. Fantastic performance, Taika Waititi, you're great. And I also feel like the first 20 minutes of the movie worked as just checkpoints to get the whole thing started, you know, fix the ground, and it didn't do it in such a nice way. It's like from point A to B to C, you get the point. The setup is needed, but it's done in just that way, that all it feels is needed. It's not that entertaining. Funniest MCU film yet that has the quirkiness needed for a character like Thor, directed masterfully by Waititi, that sadly has its classic Marvel problem with its villain, but still stays strong enough to leave me with a smiling grin. In the end, I'm gonna give Thor a rate of a strong 7 out of 10, probably or possibly an 8 out of 10 in the future.
ورا 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 والراس حيران ما مجنون تمه gel 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 yanıma can hayran selvi boyuna